Coming up on a newscast. It was the coldest day of the season so far here in the nation. The KMA issued cold wave warnings nationwide as various damage and accidents could happen. The Yoon administration is to hold its first state policy review meeting. The focus will be on the economy, balanced regional development, and major social reforms. The U.S. military launched a Space Force unit in South Korea, part of the Allies' efforts to strengthen security coordination against North Korean threats. Hello and welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Chen. Let's begin with the top story at this hour. The mercury dipped to levels not seen so far this winter here in the nation. The Korean Meteorological Administration issued cold wave warnings nationwide. Shin Hanul starts us off with what must be done to brace for the freezing conditions.
The Korea Meteorological Administration on Wednesday issued the strongest cold snap warning of this winter so far. These warnings are given when morning temperatures fall at least 10 degrees lower than the same time the day before. Just last month, the country saw the highest temperatures for November on record. But Wednesday's low of -10 was at least 3 degrees colder than the average for December in 30 years. And forecast analysts say it's too early to determine whether this is from climate change. People in Seoul are keeping wrapped up and say it seems colder than ever.
I first came out wearing just a jacket and a thin sweater. I had to go back home and bring a thicker padded coat, but it's still cold.
Even a padded coat won't do for this type of weather, so I ordered a fur hat for myself.
Sudden drops in temperature have caused some safety issues nationwide, especially in regions like Jeollabuk-do province, where it has snowed a lot over these past few days. One person reportedly got into a car accident after hitting a patch of black ice. Up until this afternoon, the fire department had to go out and rescue 34 people who were stuck in their cars because they were afraid of doing the same. That's why local authorities have been dispatching personnel with equipment to melt ice on the roads and take precautionary measures. A KMA forecast analyst also gave a few pointers on how to keep safe.
Be careful whenever you're driving or walking. Make sure to check water pipes in buildings. In case they do freeze, don't pour warm water on them. They may break. Because we're expecting stronger winds, it may feel even colder than it actually is. So make sure to always wear layers and keep yourself warm.
Temperatures are set to drop even more from Thursday, and heavy snow is expected to hit the metropolitan region. Shin Hanul, Arirang News.
Also, the country is likely facing a winter resurgence of COVID-19, with people tending to stay indoors due to the cold weather. Citizens are encouraged to get bivalent vaccines. Authorities are set to discuss new indoor mask rules. Song Yoo-jin brings the updates.
The expected winter resurgence of COVID-19 is becoming a reality here in South Korea. There's an increase in the number of new virus cases and suspected reinfections. The latest data from the Central Disease Control Headquarters show that an average of 58,000 people tested positive for the virus per day during the first week of December. That's up 11% from the week before. And almost 15% were reinfections. This means that around 1 in 7 had caught COVID before. The country's reproduction rate has also been above 1 for 8 straight weeks. This means that each contagious person is infecting more than one other. Then, what's triggering this new wave?
Besides waning immunity and more indoor activities during winter, we believe the virus tallies could jump even further. This is because of the spread of new variants such as BN1.
BN1 is a sublineage of the highly transmissible Omicron that accounted for 17% of new cases during the first week of December. That's 5 times more than what was reported early last month. Health officials are advising people to get the new bivalent vaccines known to be effective against Omicron strains. Later this month, the government will start rolling out Moderna's BA4 and BA5 targeting bivalent vaccines too, reservations for which will open next Monday. Currently, there are 3 available options: Moderna and Pfizer's shots for the BA.1 variant and Pfizer's that targets BA.4 and BA.5. And regarding the long-awaited change in indoor mask-wearing rules, health authorities will announce an update next Friday. They'll make a decision after listening to infectious disease experts. Before, the government had hinted that the indoor mask mandate could be relieved sometime between January and March. 송유진, Arirang News.
South Korean researchers developed a new PCR testing method that digitally detects whether one has contracted the coronavirus. This method is not only faster, but can also detect other diseases, including swine flu and Zika, at the same time. Cho Sung-min gets us better acquainted with this breakthrough.
PCR testing is something that's been added to our lives since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. While we rely on PCR tests to check for sure whether we've contracted virus, the time it takes for the results to come out remains one of the downsides. The results are usually sent the next day. This is because it takes several bulky and heavy machines 4 hours to detect whether the virus is present in the sample it is analyzing. However, a team of South Korean researchers came up with a much quicker way to carry out the process using wireless technology. What's key is the way it uses coding to identify specific types of virus. Researchers say the new testing method can successfully detect 4 viruses, including COVID-19, flu, swine flu, and the Zika virus all at once and in just 40 minutes.
With the application of wireless technology, different codes are input through different combinations. Because the codes are all different, they can differentiate without confusion and thus detect multiple strains of viruses at the same time.
The new device also consists of simple composition, resulting in being 40% smaller than the testing devices commonly used. Developers also say it can be easily localized as most parts are interchangeable. While the global market share of COVID-19 testing kits is expected to shrink starting in 2023, this new device will have an edge over its competitors due to time efficiency and other features. The developers expect it to be fully commercialized in the next 2 years and hope to contribute to boosting the nation's ability to counter various kinds of viruses. Cho Sung-min, Arirang News.
The Yoon administration's first state policy review meeting is set to focus on the economy, balanced regional development, and major social reforms. The 100-minute-long event on Thursday, broadcast live, will involve Q&As for 100 invited civil panelists with the president or his cabinet officials. The social reform session includes ways to revamp the national pension, education, and labor systems. According to the top office, the meeting was supposed to include a roadmap on future growth as well, but instead it was decided that more focus will be given to other items on the agenda. South Korea held a ceremony to mark the start of full operations of the Shin Hanul 1 nuclear reactor. The event to celebrate the completion of the country's 27th nuclear reactor in Ulsan was attended by Energy Minister Lee Chang-yang. He gave a special speech on behalf of President Yoon, pledging to prove the excellence and safety of Korea's nuclear power plant technology to the world. The plant is expected to help replace more than 1.4 million tons of LNG imports annually, contribute to reducing energy imports, stabilize electricity supply, and reduce trade deficit. President Yoon pledged to reverse the previous administration's policy of phasing out nuclear power and to invest around $1.5 billion in nuclear energy next year. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi says North Korea is in the midst of actively preparing for a nuclear test. He believes it will take place at a time that's convenient for the regime.
And what we see is active preparation, which means that this gives them the flexibility to pick a date. We hope a test will not take place. I know that.
Grossi arrived in Seoul on Wednesday and also said that the IAEA is keeping a close eye on the North. During the 3-day visit, he will meet with Foreign Minister Park Jin on Thursday to discuss North Korea issues, as well as Seoul's concerns over Japan releasing contaminated water from the Fukushima nuclear plant next spring. The IAEA chief vowed to ensure full transparency in the water release process. The U.S. military set up a Space Force unit here in South Korea, dubbed Space Force Corps. It's one of the very few to be established outside of America. It aims to monitor and detect any projectiles flying from North Korea and strengthen the security alliance against Pyongyang. Lieutenant Colonel Joshua McCullion has assumed command of the new unit. During the opening ceremony, he mentioned how a strong alliance has been forged over 7 decades. He also said the two countries are expanding combat cooperation through this space unit. Space Force Corps will run at Osan Air Base in Pyeongtaek. The CIA believes North Korea may have shortened mandatory military service period for men, something Seoul's top intel agency also mentioned previously. An update to the CIA's World Factbook shows the service period is 10 years for men and 5 years for women, but notes that some information which it doesn't specify indicates that for men it's been reduced to 7 or 8 years. At any given time, up to 30% of North Korean men between the ages of 18 and 27 are in the so-called People's Army, excluding the reserves and paramilitary units. A shorter length of service was mentioned back in February 2021 by South Korea's NIS, which told lawmakers in parliament that it has been cut by 1 or 2 years for both men and women. A major breakthrough has been announced by U.S. scientists in the race to develop nuclear fusion as a clean and unlimited source of energy. They've managed to yield more energy from a fusion reaction. Yoon explains further.
U.S. scientists announced on Tuesday that for the first time in a laboratory, a fusion experiment had produced more energy than was put in. The experiment took place at the National Ignition Facility at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California. Fusion energy is the same process that powers the sun and stars and has been dubbed the holy grail of energy production. This breakthrough establishes the scientific viability of a new future for energy that could help solve climate change and future energy crises.
It's the first time it has ever been done in a laboratory, anywhere in the world. Simply put, this is one of the most impressive scientific feats of the 21st century. And the second thing it does, of course, is that this milestone moves us one significant step closer to the possibility of zero carbon, abundant fusion energy powering our society.
Though the amount of energy gathered in this experiment is very small, just enough to boil a few kettles, the significance stands in that there was a net gain in energy, meaning more energy was produced than was put in.
So fusion is the energy source that powers the sun and the stars. So the reason the sun shines is because of fusion reactions at the core of the star. And it's merging of light elements into heavy elements and releasing energy in the process. So taking hydrogen, fusing it together into helium, and releasing tremendous amounts of energy. Fusion is carbon-free. There is basically the reaction is purely based on nuclear energy, and so the output of this generates no carbon. So in that sense, it's carbon-free.
There is still a long way before this science becomes a reality. It took billions of dollars and over 60 years of research and experiments to make this latest breakthrough. Scientists will need to repeat and perfect the process before scaling it up. But as the threat of climate change looms larger by the day, the success of this experiment gives us hope of a fusion-powered future. 이은진, 아리랑 뉴스.
Into this at like
For decades, tackling declining birth rate has been a tough challenge here in South Korea. Key contributing factors include the cost of getting married and raising a child. Irian delves deeper into this phenomenon.
A lot of young people in South Korea see marriage as unnecessary. And this is one of the reasons that's causing the country to have a falling birth rate. According to the results of a survey by Statistics Korea, almost half of people living alone said that it's okay not to get married. When asked why they aren't getting married, 30.8% said it's because they can't afford to.
I think the people hesitating to get married are thinking about housing and how much they earn. Life is hard enough these days without giving yourself any more financial commitments. So why would you want to start a family?
I think people these days tend to focus more on themselves instead of having a family. Young people want to concentrate on their careers.
Statistics Korea data also shows that the number of newlywed couples, which in Korea is classed as people who got married within the last 5 years in 2021, dropped 7% from the previous year to a little over 1.1 million. This is the fewest since data was first compiled in 2015. Among them, almost 80% were married for the first time. 45.8% don't have kids. And even if they do have children, the average number of kids these couples had was 0.66, also hitting an all-time low. South Korea is the most expensive place to raise a child. According to a report released by Jefferies Financial Group, or JEF, the average cost of raising a child is more than 7 times higher than the country's GDP per capita. It's estimated that parents would need to spend around $230,000 up until their child turns 18. Experts say that continued support throughout the child's life is what's needed most.
To resolve the low birth rate, it's necessary to figure out why women who might want babies are reluctant to. And the fundamental solution could be making a more family-friendly work environment. The government needs to find ways that can enable women to work and look after their children at the same time.
Experts also say work policies that can guarantee enough parenting time would also be needed, while overheated academic competition, which is leading to excessive spending of time and money, has to end. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
South Korea's tech exports fell for the 5th month in a row, mainly due to decline in electronics. Overall trade surplus in tech of $3.8 billion was notched, but it was the smallest surplus so far this year. According to the Trade Ministry, outbound shipments of ICT products came to $16.6 billion for an on-year dip of 22.5%. There were declines in all major tech categories. Semiconductors, Korea's biggest export item, plunged almost 30%, displays down 17%, and mobile phones down 6%. Imports of tech, on the other hand, came to around $13 billion, up 0.6% on year. South Korea has achieved its goal for this year in terms of exports of processed seafood, with total shipments exceeding $3 billion. According to the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, outbound shipments of these goods surpassed the set target of December 9th. The biggest item was seaweed at $620 million. Overseas consumers have been buying more Korean seaweed snacks, particularly in the American market. With the growing popularity of these products, the ministry expects the sector's total export value to exceed 4 trillion won for the first time. The government has announced a plan to help nurture the food tech industry. This refers to sectors like plant-based meat alternatives as well as robots for serving and cooking. Shin Hanul sheds light on what kind of support these unicorns will receive.
Food tech refers to industries using high-tech communications, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology in the production, distribution, and consumption of food. Examples include plant-based alternative foods, online distribution platforms, and robots for delivery, serving, and cooking. Globally, the food tech market has grown to $554 billion as of 2020, and South Korea's own market to $47 billion.
The food technology industry integrates cutting-edge technologies into the entire process of food production. We are looking forward to it boosting our agri-food industry.
On Wednesday, Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs announced a plan to develop the industry. The government aims to nurture food tech unicorn companies, those worth more than $1 billion, from 2 to 30 over the next 5 years, by providing financial support such as a fund worth 100 billion Korean won, or about $77 million. In terms of R&D, the ministry will also select and support 10 key technologies such as cell-cultured products, food upcycling, and robots. To help Korean companies go global, it will provide them with information on trends in the global market and the regulations in different countries. The ministry is also planning to replace imported food ingredients with domestic ones so the industry has a stronger base. This includes expanding the production of soybeans, which are a primary ingredient.
As part of efforts to expand the market, by next year we will draft a bill on nurturing the food tech industry and will work to meet global food standards.
With a new plan, the ministry is expecting to boost the exports in this sector from the current $500 million to $2 billion, while using the increased diversity offered by food tech to bolster food security. Shin Hanul, Arirang News.
The iconic shopping district of Myeongdong is coming back to life this Christmas season. For decades, it was the place to be this time of the year for tourists, couples, and families out to shop and see the festive decorations. According to our Kim Jong-sil, it's welcome news for businesses there.
Myeongdong, the main shopping area in downtown Seoul, is back in business. What were vacant stores and restaurants earlier in the year are now filled with people again.
I was here beginning of the year, and I was really sad because it was really dead and all the stores were closed. Now I really enjoy to be back, and there's so many people in so many stores and so much food to enjoy.
Sales in the Myeongdong commercial district have risen by 38%, and accommodation in particular is up by 84% compared to last year.
We basically had no sales during the pandemic, but from October, many foreign guests have visited us, so we've been busy. We are 90% booked in December because of the holiday season.
Experts said the weaker Korean won and the removal in October of the need to take a PCR test on arrival in the country has helped bring back foreign tourists. But foreigners aren't the only ones coming back to Myeongdong. Myeongdong's famous Christmas decorations are attracting people from all over the country.
Behind me at Shinsegae department store, you can see this year's holiday decoration theme, a magical winter fantasy. It's become one of the hottest spots for social media users who've come here to take videos of the facade.
The nearby Lotte department store also showcased its rendition of Christmas. This year, its indoor display features a hotel lobby decoration where visitors can pose as a hotel front desk clerk. Many lined up to take pictures.
It has that kind of end-of-the-year vibe that I love, plus it's warm in here when it's snowing outside.
This place is on Instagram as must-visit spots in Myeongdong, so I came. It feels Christmassy. I love it. Uncertainties remain, but Myeongdong is showing signs that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
The powerful cold wave will continue to sweep across South Korea. Expect frigid conditions to continue into early next week. For tomorrow, morning temperatures will rise a tad, but minus figures will continue to take over. While the capital region will be starting off at -7 degrees Celsius. Places like Cheoran will be ice cold at -13. Keep in mind that temperatures will feel a couple notches lower than the actual readings. Snow is falling for western regions tonight, but more widespread snowfall is in store for tomorrow. The capital region, Chungcheongdo and Jeollado provinces can expect 1 to 5 centimeters. Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do provinces will see heavier snowfall of up to 7 centimeters. The rest of the nation will see light snowfall. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at -7 degrees. Daily highs in Seoul will get up to 2 degrees, Gwangju 7, Daegu and Gyeongju will be reaching 6 degrees Celsius. On Sunday, extremely cold conditions are expected with lows plunging to -12 degrees. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that's all from us. As always, thank you for watching.